Hello guys, Yamaneura here, welcome to Practical Knowledge. Today we'll cover the third part of the book, The 5 Elements of Effective Thinking by Edward Burger and Michael Starburg. The authors of this book developed a method to help us get new insights, produce new knowledge, get a deeper understanding, to don't be afraid of making mistakes, and so on. This method is outlined in 5 habits, and for each one of them we have a classical element associated. We have understand the earth, make mistakes fire, raise questions air, follow the flow of ideas water, and change the quintessential element which will bind everything. Today we cover the third element, air, raise questions. And if you haven't watched it yet, the links to the other videos are in the description. Okay, when we have an issue to deal with, I think that raising questions is not gonna be the first thing we want, because after all, we need answers and solutions, right? But as a matter of fact, the very act of creating questions is a profound step toward understanding and perhaps solving the issue itself. How? It's through questions that we can make new discoveries, and progression is made because framing good questions focus our attention on the right issues. For example, in the 1960s, Malcolm McLean, the owner of a trucking company and a former trucker himself, regularly got stuck in traffic on the crowded coastal highways. In order to solve that problem, he must have wondered, is there a way to bypass this traffic? So he came up with the idea to circumvent the congested roads, which was not the difficult part because transporting goods with ships, for example, was already done for centuries, but there was no standardization about how the goods were loaded, which turned the process slow and difficult. In other words, he would just turn one problem into another. So he thought to use something simple, a box. Actually a huge one, which you all know now as the shipping container. McLean also converted the tanker Ideal X to be able to carry 58 containers and set it to sail on April 26 in 1956. When the advantage became obvious, second order effects came into play and went into a self-reinforcing positive feedback loop. The more harbors were able to handle containers, the more container ships were needed to be built, which made shipping cheaper, which increased the range of goods worth shipping, which created more traffic, which made bigger container ships economical, which created more demand for infrastructure, and so on. It wasn't just another way of shipping goods, it was a whole new way of doing business. And it all rolls out of questioning about how to do not getting stuck in traffic anymore. Okay, maybe we cannot solve a traffic problem as McLean did, but we can always ask something like, given that I will spend this extra time in traffic, how can I use that time efficiently? In this way, we are asking a question that is productive. We might consider listening to a podcast, an audiobook, a language lesson, or even something that will entertain. The point is in the act of raising questions that we exercise the ability to think in different and creative ways of doing or solving something. Constantly formulating and raising questions is a mind-opening habit that forces you to have a deeper engagement with the world and a different inner experience. Asking yourself challenge questions can help you review hidden assumptions, avoid bias, expose vagueness, identify errors, and consider alternatives. So the act of formulating questions is as important as answering them. Generating questions can help direct our next steps toward deeper understanding and creative problem solving. So, what did you think so far? Did you imagine that the simple act of raising questions could be so valuable? Drop me a comment below to let me know what you think, and if you haven't yet, I ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. You'll be supporting the creation of more content like this. Now, effective questions should turn our mind in directions that lead to new insights and solutions. Then, if we think in those terms, a question like, how can I be successful, may not help and can be a little vague because until I first carefully define what is success for me, for example, that question is basically unanswerable. Think with me, when we ask about success, what are we talking about? Are we talking about making lots of money or being famous, having more stability, security? I mean, when we try to define what is success to us, that question leads us to explore and review core values, habits, and what really matters and makes difference to us. So, a great exercise to do before immediately springing to work on the answer is always to stop and ask what the real question here, or based on my situation and my values, what the most suitable solution? Often the question that seems obvious may not be the question that leads to effective action.
Effective question leads to action and are not fake. If you're a student, you may ask, how can I ace my exam? And when you ask that, your concern is narrowly focused on how will be your performance on examinations, right? But better questions may include, how can I become more engaged in the course material? How can I give a small lecture explaining the material? How could I write a detailed outline for this course? These questions lead to action that you can take, like becoming an active listener, joining a studying group, or even better, tutoring others. If you are a teacher, you can always ask, what beneficial change will this exercise or assignment help foster or develop in my students? And afterward, what permanent lessons have these activities advanced? Because the real goal of education is to develop skills and attitudes that will allow the students to independently think through the complications of life and find ways to learn for themselves. The right questions clarify your understanding and focus your attention on features that matter. Turn yourself into a master in creating questions that will highlight hidden assumptions and indicate directions to take to make progress, clarify issues, and lead to actions. Questions like, how can I learn to communicate better? How can I better manage my time? How can I save more money? How can I attract that potential clients? How can I quit a bad habit? How can I get my students to be more engaged? How can I make better videos for my audience? Seeking the right question forces us to realize that there are at least two kinds of ignorance. Number one, cases in which we know the right questions but not the answer. And number two, cases in which we don't even know which questions to ask. Constantly thinking of questions is a mindset with tremendous impact. We become more alive and curious because we are actively engaged while we are listening and living. We become more open to ideas because we are constantly discovering places where our assumptions are exposed. We take more effective action because we clarify what needs to be done.
And when you don't know something, one of the best ways to deal with it is to admit it as quickly as possible and immediately take action, which is ask a question.
Don't be intimidated because you're the best authority on what you don't understand. Trust yourself and don't be afraid to ask the questions you need to ask, and be brave enough to change your thinking when you uncover a blind spot. The right questions can be incredibly powerful tools for understanding and learning. Great questions can lead to insights that will make a difference. Questions give us a breath of inspiration and insight. Thus, we associate the art of questioning with the element air.
And if you want to see another great video, I will leave you with this one right here. In the next video, we'll cover the fourth element, water. So until there, be safe guys and stay tuned.